Hi guys, and many thanks for joining me. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Kat and I like to talk about crimes, investigations, missing people, conspiracy theories and everything related. Please don't forget to subscribe and also hit the notification button below so you are the first one to know about any new videos I upload. For my subscribers, I would like to thank you so much for subscribing, for supporting me and for all the lovely comments. And now, before we start, here is the disclaimer. I do not mean to be disrespectful to anyone I talk about in this video. The information I have is from the internet and I gather all this information, I compile them in a video and you guys are more than welcome to draw your own conclusions. Thank you. Now today I want to talk to you about Gerry Mccann and Robert Murat's relationship. I want us to go through the video to try and understand if they knew each other before Madeleine's disappearance. I think all of you guys who are watching are quite familiar with the reply Gerry Mccann gave when he was asked by Sandra if he knew Murat, and his reply was, "I am not going to comment on that." To me, honestly, someone who is answering like that, it seems suspicious, because usually if someone doesn't know the other person, they would simply just say no, that they don't know them. But knowing the Mccanns that they are, nothing is straightforward with them. Anyway, if you guys haven't seen the interview where he replied to Sandra's question, here is the video.
Did you know Robert Murat?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay, so after watching this, I am not being a judge of character, but try a bit to imagine that he is not Gerry Mccann, the person you're seeing, right? So let's think a bit impartial here. To me, it seems like he is sort of turning his head to a side, giving the impression that he's not comfortable with the question, and then he is looking sort of down, like it would be a gesture of someone lying, or perhaps he's being embarrassed that he's lying. But anyway, something is not right here, and knowing how the Mccanns are, there's always something hidden somewhere. Anyway, I think that if he would have just given a straight no answer that he doesn't know Murat, no one would have given this question and answer a second thought. But that's how the Mccanns are. As we know, Robert Murat first came to our attention when he offered to be the translator between the Portuguese police, witnesses, the Mccanns, and everyone related to the investigation. But I'm not sure if you guys knew, but it seems that Murat was actually referred by the British ambassador to Portugal, Bill Henderson, and he referred Murat to the PJ to use him for translations. Murat, we know, used to live in the UK, but since he moved to Portugal, and he is a real estate consultant. He lives in Casa Liliana, which is his mother's house, in Praia da Luz, just 100 meters from the Ocean Club Resort. This bit is really important actually. As far as the town of Exeter is concerned, several people connected with the Madeleine McCann's case live in or near Exeter. Now I do apologize if I'm not pronouncing it right. I can't do any better than that, sorry. Let's see who those people are. Robert Murat's two sisters live in Exeter, less than a mile from Jane Tanner and Sidmouth. Allegedly, a few hours after receiving a lengthy phone call, Murat flew from Exeter Airport to Faro at 7 a.m. on Tuesday, 1st of May 2007. But there's something weird about this flight. Now, I'll put something on the screen for you. Please have a look at the notes in red. Now this would fit right here. Murat flies Exeter Firo early on May the 1st. On the 30th of April, Jane makes a call at 6:31 p.m. and this would be the first of the only 2 calls on the day. The second call is at 8:41 p.m. It's possible she calls Murat or receives a call from him to confirm he booked his flight and for last minute arrangements. And guess what? On the same day, Murat books a flight for the next morning. That's interesting. You don't book a flight from today to tomorrow unless there is some kind of a really big emergency. But this is not all. Have a look again at Jane's phone records. And now let's see the blue notes. Who rings or needs to be rang by Jane Tanner at 4:12 in the morning? 4 a.m. At first, I thought it must have been one of the Mccanns or O'Brien informing her of the death of Madeleine. Besides, people usually get this kind of phone calls at this strange hour in the morning only in case of an emergency. But then I'm thinking, what if Murat called to say that he's making arrangements to fly to Portugal? Jane Tanner and her partner O'Brien moved to Exeter in 2007. But this was even before they went to holiday in Portugal. And Jane Tanner was a web marketing officer with Exeter University. On the Exeter University website, she self-describes herself as follows. I maintain and develop the website that represent the College of Social Sciences and International Studies. I work closely with the Central CAMS team and the College ERICA team to create a consistent approach across all communications. I moved to Exeter and joined the university in 2007, following years of varied marketing roles for Fisher Scientific UK in the Midlands. And now here is a map of how close they live to each other. So, an obvious question would be, is it possible that Jane Tanner knew Robert Murat before Maddie's disappearance? Maybe they know each other from Exeter? Allegedly, the DNA of both was found in an apartment at Burgau. Although the lab results couldn't confirm with certainty their exact DNA was a match, it can be possible. They were both there at the same time in Portugal, so it can be possible. Anyway, here is a lab report, but if you have a look at the highlighted section in red here, you can clearly see that the inquiry could not say with absolute certainty that the hair found in Burgau actually came from Jane Tanner, because it could have come from any person born of a mother belonging to any of the 8 profiles in the database. So we are not sure if indeed it was Jane Tanner's DNA found on the hair sample from the apartment in Burgau. Now we need to get back to the call, to Jane Tanner's call, right? Maybe the call was made to Jane's friend, Charlotte Gorod? Maybe? Jim Gorod, a solicitor employed by Anstey's and specializing in property law, and his wife Charlotte lived just 2 minutes walk from Jane Tanner and Russell O'Brien. They were in Praia de Luz the same week as the Mccanns. And we also know that the Mccanns used to visit Jane Tanner with the kids so they can spend time together on quite a few occasions, actually, as Kate was mentioning it in her book. And now it gets interesting. James Gorod, 34 years old at the time, of course, rented a blue Opel Corsa in Portugal 5 days before the 4-year-old vanished. The staff at the rental firm SIG, based at Faro Airport, raised the alarm when he returned the car with a child seat, knowing that he was driving the car alone. Now the thing is, that when he rented this car there was no child seat in it, and also he didn't request for a child seat to be fitted. So to me it seems a bit strange that they were traveling with their 2-year-old son, but they haven't asked for a car seat from the rental company. And then where did that car seat come from? Would they really buy a child seat for the holiday? I mean, I don't think I would buy one if I'd go on holiday. Obviously, a rental company in a holiday location, they would offer a car seat, I assume. Mr. Gorod was later contacted by the British police after it was discovered he had close links with friends who had been on holiday with Maddie's parents, Kate and Gerry. In a statement, Mr. Gorod said, "A British police officer directly liaising with the Portuguese investigation recently contacted me to eliminate the vehicle I hired for a holiday with my wife and our 2-year-old son in Praia da Luz at the same time as Madeleine Mccann." Now, another coincidence or not, Murat was also in Exeter for 10 days before returning to Portugal 48 hours before Maddie allegedly disappeared. So he returned to Portugal on the 1st of May. Mr. Gorod, his wife and their son flew out to Portugal the same day as the Mccanns and the group did, on 28th of April. But there are also some other Murat connections. Des Taylor, the architect who designed Murat's villa in Praia da Luz, is from Plymouth, Devon. Murat's aunt and uncle, Sally and Ralph Everley, lived in Plymouth. Sally seemed to be into all kind of weird and wonderful alternative therapies. One visitor to their Salsalito villa described it as a fantastic, wonderful, amazing retreat. Yes, you heard right, Salsalito. It's exactly the same place where Murat, after being made a suspect, had a meeting with the Cheshire multimillionaire and businessman Brian Kennedy, who was appointed by the Mccanns to lead the private investigation into Maddie's disappearance. In November 2007, him and the Mccanns' coordinating lawyer, senior Freemason Edward Heathurst, traveled to Portugal for the meeting with Murat and his lawyer Francisco Pagaret, and the meeting took place at the home of Murat's aunt and uncle Sally and Ralph Everley. There are so many coincidences surrounding these people that to me it seems highly unlikely they didn't know each other prior to Madeleine's disappearance. I think every single one of them had a certain role to play in this entire circus. If it must have been like this, it's impossible for so many coincidences to happen without a connection. But there's more. Why were Gerry's and Murat's phones switched off for the same 32 hours on the 2nd and 3rd of May? They both switched off their mobile phones almost at the same time for 32 hours, and this includes the time when Madeleine was reported missing. Murat's phone was completely switched off from 3:44 p.m. on the 2nd of May, and Gerry's phone was switched off from 3:49 p.m. on 2nd of May. Gerry switched his mobile back on at 11:14 p.m. on the 3rd of May, and Murat switched his phone at 11:20 p.m. on the 3rd of May. This is really weird. It seems that both Gerry and Murat wanted something hidden. Possibly they were both working on something or meeting up somewhere, and they didn't want anyone to be able to trace their locations. But I also have another opinion. What if Gerry spent the day of 3rd of May at Murat's house? Why was Murat instructed, supposedly by his lawyer, to stay away from his house on the 3rd of May? And why did he give 3 versions of events of his whereabouts to the PJ? And also, why did he spend 3 hours with Jorge Silva at the golf club. Maybe because Casa Liliana was used to finish the details of the fake abduction story at 10 p.m. Maybe because Casa Liliana was used to finish the details of the abduction at 10 p.m. Maybe Gerry was using Murat's residence to plan on moving Madeleine's body. I mean, no one would have suspected that Gerry could be at Murat's house. Supposedly they didn't know each other. The key moment, I think it was the phone call that Gerry received at 12:24:40, but before, call made to or from Murat's house at 12:24:11. Murat's house phone was silent the whole day apart from this one time, and then the phone was silent again for the next 5 hours. So this was only a phone call. Only a phone call. And it seems that the call or message that Gerry received was actually from the UK, from Professor Ian Squire, senior colleague at Glenfield Hospital, and the 12-second message or call must have been to give Gerry the go-ahead. But the go-ahead to what exactly? Get rid of Maddie's body? But we don't know because the details of the call or the message were never revealed. Then we also have some other phone records of Jane Tanner, and these are on the screen right now with you. So I don't know how much of a coincidence is that Jane receives a text message from a medical colleague at Exeter University 25 minutes after Kate receives her reply from Coxswain Whitaker, and just 10 minutes after Gerry's incoming unanswered text messages begin. What if the messages were being passed through a third party from one to another to avoid being detected? And also, why is Jane confusing Flaxman's surname in her rogatory statement? Both Kate and Gerry allegedly wiped their phones, and Kate only left one number from Swansea on her phone, which to me indicates selective deleting. I mean, what are the odds that she deleted all of those messages by mistake, but there was one saved message which apparently was a wrong number? No, in my view she must have deleted those. And also the Stoke Hill call that Jane receives, saying they called her to see why her kid didn't attend the preschool. But come on, really. Now, if this holiday was planned, I'm sure that Jane would contact the preschool to let them know that her kid is not going to preschool. I mean, it's a bit of, common sense, really. Also texting a so-called friend in Exeter, Maxine, which, funny enough, she doesn't seem to remember her surname. But the friend never replies. But for the 3rd of May, there's only one text being sent to her friend Charlotte Batchelor. When asked about it in her rogatory, she says Charlotte was on holiday in Portugal but had left on the Saturday, which again doesn't make sense. Them had just arrived in Portugal on the Saturday. It was also around this time that allegedly Jane was seen outside of apartment 5A in a plum jumper. Let's entertain for a moment, the possibility that the Tapas 7 and the Mccanns are swingers, as it's been speculated and quite some theories circulating around, right? But what's to say that Robert Murat is not part of that group? Allegedly, Robert Murat would host a lot of parties in properties he had access to. Allegedly, these were swingers parties, and maybe the Tapas 7 and the Mccanns were also invited to these parties. As it seems, the locals, they knew about the parties, but they didn't, they never went forward with any accusations. Maybe Jane forced Murat to help. Otherwise, she would go to the media with all she knows. Who knows, maybe you never know. You see, now you see I keep jumping from one to another, and I'm hoping it's not getting confusing for you, but I think it's really important and it's necessary so we are able to try and connect the dots. On 12th of May, Saturday, Murat rents a car, a grey Hyundai, and long story short, he says that his own car is down for repair, then his mom is using the other car, so he doesn't have a car, and that's the reason why he's renting. He also mentions that he traveled between 60 to 120 miles. However, the rental company CMA Auto Rent in Praia da Luz indicates the car was driven more than 400 miles. Murat, of course, denies this. At the same time, Gerry and Kate Mccann discuss a possible visit to the Catholic shrine at Fatima. The 400 miles that Murat drove could very easily have been the drive to the shrine and back. He could even have driven to Lisbon and back. So, in my view, I think that the Mccanns had more than one car available to them if indeed they needed transport to take Madeleine's body. And I'm not necessarily saying that they went to their friends and they said, oh, okay, I need this car because I want to transport the body. No, not necessarily that. But, you know, they could very easily have said, I need to go and buy baby milk for the twins, for example, or I need to go and buy this or that. And being friends, probably they would have given the cars to each other. Murat car hire is really strange because he is not renting the car on his name but on his ex-wife's name. But if he needed this car in a hurry, why not use a local address or even his sister's address in Exeter? Now, this is very strange. Unless maybe he didn't want to be traced back and connected to the car for some reason, because he used the car for some dodgy stuff. Then there's also another instance when the Mccanns could have used the car, and this is in the following days after Maddie's disappearance. The PJ, as a part of their investigation, they were looking to track down a vehicle used by Russell O'Brien, for which the police requested a mandate. And this is taken from the PJ files, so I'll put this on the screen. To the coordinator of the criminal investigation. In the context of the investigation, we have collected information concerning a vehicle used by Russell O'Brien, friend and member of the group, who spent their holiday with the Mccann family in the Algarve. At the time of the request for vehicles considered important to the procedures that follow, we were not aware of the identification details of this vehicle. Meantime, our investigation has led us to establish that it may be a vehicle of the Opel range, a Corsa, model registration AG62. At the present time, we do not have a mandate to search for and seize the vehicle to allow us to add the vehicle to the planned inspections. As a consequence, we request such a legal mandate in order to be able to realize the planned inspections. This car later turns out to be rented by James Gorod, whom Russell knew from Exeter as well. and we also mentioned this above. So connecting, let's keep on going. Let's carry on. Now I want to move on to Murat being a suspect. And just like that, from being a translator, he is now a suspect. And it all started from Jane Tanner reporting she saw a man carrying a child heading in Murat's house direction. Then one reporter by the name of Laurie Campbell becomes suspicious of him. Allegedly, of course, because I, for one, don't believe anything she has to say. On the 6th of May, a female officer from the Leicestershire Constabulary faxed the Portugal incident room a report. And it reads, Laurie has been speaking to an interpreter who has been helping the Portuguese authorities with the investigation into Madeleine's disappearance. He has only given his name as Rob and has not given any background information about himself. Laurie has become suspicious of Rob as he has given conflicting accounts to various people and became very concerned when he noticed his photo being taken by the Mirror's photographer. Rob stated to Laurie that he was going through a messy divorce in the UK at the moment and that he had a 3-year-old daughter just like Madeleine, who he is separated from at the moment. He made a big show of telephoning his daughter in front of reporters, and Laurie felt he was being too loud and making a big thing of speaking to his daughter on the phone. The things that Rob has said to Laurie have raised her concerns about him. Could you please call Laurie, who is still in Portugal, to establish further details to identify Rob in order to eliminate him from your inquiries? And they also gave the PJ Laurie's phone number. I mean, it's quite obvious who Laurie is talking about, the translator who was helping the Mccanns in Maddie's disappearance. It was quite obvious that the only translator there at that time was Robert Murat. So yeah. Now, Laurie Campbell, who was working for the Daily Mirror and the Independent, has previously worked with, guess who? Clarence Mitchell, the Mccann's PR representative. Leicestershire Police referred Laurie Campbell to the British ambassador, not the Portuguese police. However, the Leicestershire Police called the Portuguese police, saying Laurie Campbell raised concerns about Murat. So it wasn't Laurie who called the police, which is weird. Unless there was a language barrier, I don't know. But anyway, it's weird. So you are in Portugal and you call the police in the UK, so that the police from the UK needs to call the Portuguese police, although you are in Portugal already. Doesn't make sense. No. Campbell's reports hit just the right buttons, because Murat came under suspicion to the PJ, and after 12 days of Maddie's disappearance, he became an official suspect. 3 members of the Tapas 7 said they have seen Murat near the resort on the evening of Maddie's disappearance, which would have been unsurprising because we have to think about the proximity of his house to the Ocean Club resort. So he only lived 100 meters from the resort. And also him and his mom said they were both at home the whole evening. And this citing reports includes Jane Tanner as well, who at one point was certain that she saw Robert Murat. But then, after some time, again she changed her statement. Murat's house was searched, his pool was drained, his cars, computer, phones and videotapes examined, his garden searched using ground radar and sniffer dogs, and 2 of his associates were questioned. Murat found himself at the center of wild media allegations that continued for months. He told the Cambridge Union in March 2009 that he had felt like a fox pursued by hounds, and that the case had almost destroyed his life. He and his 2 associates sued 11 newspapers for libel in relation to 100 articles published by associated newspapers, Northern and Shell, Express Group, Mirror Group newspapers, and News Group newspapers, News International. According to the Observer, it was the largest number of separate libel actions brought in the UK by the same person in relation to one issue. And check this out. Murat was rewarded £600,000 in July 2008 and the others $100,000 each. And all 3 of them received public apologies. Also, the British Sky Broadcasting Group, which owns Sky News, paid Murat undisclosed damages in a separate libel action in November 2008 and agreed that Sky News should host an apology to him on their website for the next 12 months. Now, before I tell you what I feel about all of these things, there's one last important thing I need to mention. Rebecca Brooks, at the time of Madeleine's disappearance, I believe was a reporter for The Sun and News International. She was part of the Leveson inquiry, and among other things, she had to talk about the role she played in the Mccann's campaign. She was the one that pushed to serialize Kate's book and paid for the serialization between £500,000 and £1 million. Not only that, but it seems she and her team were the ones who persuaded David Cameron to jump on Madeleine's case. She threatened him that if he doesn't agree to jump on the Madeleine McCann's case, then she will put Theresa May on the front pages of the newspapers for a week with bad headlines. I'm going to show you now part of that video, and I'll also leave the link in the description below if you want to watch the full video about this Leveson inquiry.
Let's see if we can just take one case study and see whether there's any validity in that case study. You remember the McCann serialization
case? I do, yes.
Which actually we've got Dr. McCann's evidence in relation to this in the bundle, haven't we, at page 57 under tab 6. You have that there. We're working for the transcript of the evidence this inquiry received on the 23rd of November 2011.
Right, yes.
And if you look at page 57, line 11, the question I asked was, you talk about a meeting with Rebecca Brooks. Are you on the right page?
They're not numbered in that way, but...
They are actually...
Oh, it's 57, is it, at the bottom?
No. It says 15 at the bottom, but each page has 4 pages on.
Right, I've got it. Sorry, thank you, sir. Yes.
The question was, you talk about a meeting with Rebecca Brooks which led to a review of your case, a formal review. Just to assist us a little bit with that, can you recall when that was? then Dr. McCann's answer was, I think it's probably worth just elaborating a little bit because it's quite a complex decision-making process. News International actually bid for the rights to the book along with HarperCollins, and one of their pitches was the fact that they would serialise the book across all their titles. We were somewhat horrified at the prospect of that, given the way we'd been treated in the past, and the deal was actually done with the publishers, Transworld, that excluded serialisation. Now, we were subsequently approached by News International and Associated to serialise the book, and after much deliberation we had a couple of meetings. And what swung the decision to serialise with News International was News International committed to backing the campaign and the search for Madeleine. So, pausing there was going to be serialisation in both the Sunday Times and the Sun, I believe. Do you recall that?
I do.
I think this is the year 2010, by which time you were Chief Executive Officer, weren't you?
That's correct.
And what was the price that you paid for the serialisation? Can you remember?
I can't remember actually. It's hundreds of thousands of pounds.
A million, we've been told.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a million. $500,000 maybe. I can't remember. I mean, I can. There are ways to find out, but I'm not sure it was a million.
Okay. What do I believe out of everything? That all of these people I mentioned in the video are not only connected to each other, they know each other. Gerry and Murat knew each other before Madeleine's disappearance, my opinion. There are too many coincidences to say that they did not. Maybe Murat agreed to be the scapegoat because he knew there's no evidence to incriminate him. They needed someone to divert attention from them, and even if he didn't agree to it, they needed someone to draw the attention away from them. Not only that, but Laurie Campbell, I think she did exactly the same thing when she reported him. We also have the Smith sighting, which might very well be fake. Maybe Gerry got seen carrying a child on purpose to confuse the investigation. Maybe he carried one of the twins just to make sure he's being seen by someone. It's known the Mccanns were invited to Clement Fraud's villa a few days after Madeleine's disappearance. It's quite possible they knew each other beforehand, otherwise why invite someone into your home? Maybe he helped them store Maddie's body, or maybe he helped them with yet another car. Seriously, with all this information, it can get more and more confusing. I feel that the more I look into it and the more I research it, I dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and I can't find the end. I don't get to the bottom of it at all. Anyway, oh yes, and also let's not forget that Murat, he made a lot of money out of him being a suspect. So that's why I'm a bit reluctant to say that he didn't know. It can be possible that he did know. Anyway guys, many thanks for watching, and in my next video I will be talking about Gonzalo Amaral's book Madeleine McCann, The Truth of the Lie. So if you don't want to miss my next video, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, that notification bell, and you'll be the first one to know about any new videos I upload. Many thanks for watching guys, stay safe and take care. Bye bye.